Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the bi-weekly HamSCI Telecon. I'm Nathaniel, W2NAF, and we don't have any particular agenda for today, so we'll just go around and give updates. Things are going fine here in Springbrook, Pennsylvania, near Scranton. We've been very busy getting ready for the Tapper DCC next week. I've given some talks on the personal space weather station. I've been working with Scotty and John, NAOBJ, on trying to make sure that they're coordinated so that the magnetometer boards that we're developing or that they're developing are compatible with both the Tangerine SDR and with the low-cost personal space weather station. And I think that's coming along. And going in the correct direction. And I think that's about it for now. I'm also continuing to work with different students doing data analysis, and all of that's coming along. So I'll just go down the list, and people can feel free to give an update. Let's see. And so we'll start with Bob, WK2Y. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Don Carter State Park, Georgia's newest state park. Came up here to do some QRP work and got totally skunked today, probably due to band conditions. On my analysis work, I have created a database of triplets from 2 years of WSPR data. And those are 3 observations within 5-minute intervals matched by frequency band and mode. And I am now and I have set up some things to merge in other variables such as distance. Hopefully we can look at latitude and longitude, total electron count, and then I can do some modeling with that and see what's responsible for all the variability of the signal to noise ratio on the different bands. It's a rather extensive database, trying to do some graphics with it and finding that doing a low S smoothing on 2 million observations takes a while. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Bob. That sounds great. All right, next we have Rob Robinette. Go ahead. Rob, are you there? I think AI6VN, is that correct?
I'm here, yes.
Hey,
Can
Rob.
you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Do I have your call rate AI6VN?
Yes, you have it correct. I'm sorry. I'm just about I continue to focus on Whisper Daemon and mostly the server stuff. We've got a server that we're deploying now, which has well, right now it'll have several months worth of Whisper net data in a fully queryable SQL database. This server is going to be online in the next day or two. So, you know, if anyone wants to do searches, this is, you know, we've got a Grafana interface to it and a complete tutorial. So anyway, that's my primary focus, and I'll be driving down there. So I'm going to go on mute and just listen, but I may well drop off.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, Rob. And over to John, Kilo Delta 2, Bravo Delta.
Hey, Nathaniel, everyone. You hear me?
Yes, you do.
Oh, good, good. I'm doing a little experiment here. I'm running, to connect you guys, I'm running the Zoom client under Linux, and then I'm also working. So I'm using Chrome to host a meeting for people who need to contact me at work. So far, I think this is the first attempt at doing this, and it seems to be working. Lately, I've been putting together a couple of DDS VFOs based on Midnight Design Solutions, DDS60 daughter cards. I programmed a couple of PICs and have a couple of LCD displays to display frequencies, and I'm going to be using them probably for some receiver projects, transmitter projects, and also for frequency measurement test purposes. So that's been in the pike for quite a number of years, and now that we're kind of locked down and I'm at home so much, I finally had some time to put it all together. So that's the only news on this end.
That sounds really good, John. Now, are you are you teaching classes right now or working with any students?
Not right at the moment, but they could come on at any time. So probably our semester, although our semester starts next week, there might be some coworkers that might want to contact me, but it
Yeah.
shouldn't bother us.
Do you do any does in any of your teaching, do you bring any of this ham radio stuff to them?
I used to. I used to be working in the electronics lab and at Brookdale Community College, and we started a Brookdale Amateur Radio Club, and we got some students interested in radio and hands-on electronics. We have a 350-foot tower on campus. We were able to put together an ATV repeater system with an antenna on top of that tower, and we were transmitting NASA television during the space shuttle missions, and that was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, they eliminated my position. They put me in computer science, where I'm busy probably almost all the time that I'm there. And I really don't have any time to even talk about anything else other than what the students need help with. So
Yeah.
different world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Well, yeah, maybe you'll be able to get this back in somehow eventually. All right. Let's go to Carl, K9LA.
Hello, Nathaniel and everyone else. Greetings from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'll just be listening again this week and hope to hear some good stuff. That's it for me.
That sounds great. And David Kasdan, 88Y.
Hi, folks. Greetings from Cleveland. I have been watching the change of seasons in the WWV and CHU Doppler shift measurements. There was an abrupt change about 2 weeks ago. In fact, I sent an email to the chief engineer at CHU asking if they were having transmitter problems. The signal had vanished in a way that it hadn't since I'd been monitoring it to the beginning of summer. And he thanked me for our inquiry, but said, no, everything's fine here. And been watching it and realized we're just heading for the fall equinox and winter's coming. So everybody stay healthy, watch your monitors. And I want to remind everyone of the FCC's call for comments on its notice of proposed rulemaking. There was a federal law passed 2 years ago, the one that's being called Ride-Blount's Law. It's worth looking up who he was. He was a representative who wound up on the board of the National Association of Broadcasters. This is a group that wants frequencies and wants them cheap. And the proposal for a new fee structure on top of the exam fees for amateur radio licensing, I think is quite onerous and will prevent many children, students, and poor people from getting their radio licenses. So you may want to look into it, and if you feel so moved, write an appropriate letter to the FCC. Okay.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, I'm not very happy about that new fee structure either. Don't know if there's much we can do about it, but I guess filing comments is a good thing to do. All right. Next, David Mcgod, N1HAC.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, and I'd made some comments. I probably should put them on the FCC site, but I put them in a few forums about the fact that amateur radio is intended to for experimentation to improve the radio art and for to be prepared in case of an emergency. And everything else is peripheral to that. So we are a public service, and I don't think that we should be subject to the same type of fees and such as a commercial entity. So hopefully someone at the FCC will hear that kind of message and realize that the $50 fee is a little ridiculous. I'm not against reasonable fees, but even though people have pointed out that it's $5 a year, $50 up front is a lot to, especially for young folks to think about getting into a hobby. Anyway, I've been working on a couple of things. One, professionally, I'm working on a fiberglass telescoping pole version of our antenna system to deploy up at Baffin Island, which happens to be conjugate to South Pole, where we have equipment. And hopefully we're getting that out in the next couple of weeks before winter sets in up there. And I've got a couple of Whisper transmitter kits that have been developed by New England SciTech and the STARS radio club there. And I'm particularly interested in getting them on the high HF and VHF bands, which apparently there's not a lot of coverage up there yet, though the bands are defined. But we recognize one of the problems is frequency control, because this has been designed around Silicon Labs chip, but the particular board that's being used is just using a garden variety crystal, not even temperature compensated. So that doesn't hack it up in the upper bands. So I'm going to help develop a higher accuracy reference system so that we can stay within the band. It's only 200 hertz wide, and I believe that's true all the way up. So we need to, you know, for the higher bands, might even need GPS locking, but we'll work that out. Back to net.
Thank you very much, Dave. That sounds good. Yeah, I think with the fees too, one thing I'm concerned about is the way I understand it right now, if you have someone who doesn't have a license and they want to get their extra class license, then it's potentially $15 VE fee plus $50, which is $75 for each license class. So then times 3, that comes to $195 up front just to get to extra. And then it's like, it seems also additionally onerous because now for the paperwork, people have to pay the VEs, you know, one fee. And then after they get through all that paperwork, then they have to go on the FCC site and figure out how to file their payment there as well. It's not even like one-stop shopping. So it's just, and then usually the VEs ask the people to go to the FCC website beforehand and get their FRN. So it's just a lot of administrative overhead for this. So I don't know. Okay, let's go over to Gareth Kd2sak.
Hi there, folks. Nothing to report from my end of things. I am in the mix of it, like a lot of probably instructors, trying to keep my head above water in this first couple of days of the semester. So I haven't been on one of these things for a while, so it's good to be back. But yeah, nothing new to report from northern New Jersey here.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Sounds good. And good luck with all the teaching over at NJIT. Next, we have Bill, NQ6Z. Go ahead.
Greetings all. So I'm still doing the conversion of FarLab to Python, and we've actually made our first deliverable this morning in MATLAB code of all things. So one of the things we've done is we've changed the routine, for those who know FarLab, that does the 2D plotting. It's called plotway ion slice, from being just a root function to being a class object, which allows people to do lots of other stuff with it, such as putting lines up that are to the zenith from any point along the Earth's surface that's included. That was something Christina Collins wanted to do. And so Christina worked with me on this. And so the first deliverable was to her, and she's using MATLAB. So she has the first function that came out of the conversion to Python code. But it's enabling her to do stuff that's much easier than what she was doing.
That's really good, Bill. And so, you know, Gareth over there, he's also working at NJIT with FarLab with his graduate students, and we're also planning on doing some things there. So we will be very interested in how this goes.
Okay, so Gareth, I can send you the code if you want it. The restrictions is because most of the code was written by Manny. It can only go to people who are, you know, officially authorized to have FarLab. It can't be posted anywhere. But that, right, you're okay with that anyway, because that's what you're doing now.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. That'd be great. Yeah. I'll put my email in the chat box for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Phil. I'm super encouraged to hear that's all moving along. All right, let's go to Gary, Alpha Foxtrot 8 Alpha.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nothing to report here. I am glad to see Maxwell's equations up on the screen. That means Zach must be here, and I'm hoping he may have an update or two on the crossed arm PSWS antenna. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, Zach, KJ4QLP.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, that's my inspiration, maybe future tattoo, if I think I ever earn it. Not much to report. I'm also scrambling to get everything together for the Tapper GCC, where I will be talking about the dipole or the cross dipole antenna. Nothing much to update on that front. Still trying to understand and make sure I'm doing things right with my attempts to get polarization measurements using that antenna. There was one other thing I wanted to ask the group about, though. When Juha presented on the HF de-chirping and detection, were there any links posted anywhere to the code he's using for that? Or I know it was part of the IARPA challenge. Nobody has to answer immediately. If somebody happens to have like a quick link or something that they can drop in the chat or shoot me an email, that would be great. And other than that, like many others, just trying to keep my head above water. It's our starting or into our second week of classes at VT, and trying to keep everybody aligned with the projects and the classes and do all that under the weird COVID restrictions. And I don't know what other folks are doing, but we've started student working groups on different areas to try to keep up that collegiate thing that you would normally chat about in passing. Try to have specific Zoom sessions to kind of keep that alive. So that people don't feel so isolated all the time. Yeah, that's it for me. Back to Nathaniel.
That sounds great, Zach. Yeah, I just put a couple links in the chat. I have the hamsci.org/ionosans page, which just has a few links about ionosans. And the one with Juha's code is his GitHub page, which is right there as well. And
awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I agree. Like trying to keep the collegiality up while we are under lockdown is tricky. But I think the Zoom sessions really help with that, and it's been really nice that we've been able to, bring so many people together from so far around the world to really talk about common interests, and I think we've benefited a lot in some ways. So let's go, speaking of far away, let's go to our DX station today. Kyle, M7KMJ, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks guys. This is my first time on the net, so I don't have a ton to add. I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I did a master's degree in aerospace engineering at CU Boulder and worked in the CEDAR community, so worked on meteor scatter radars there. And then went into industry and been a ham radio operator for many years. And then about a couple of years ago, moved over to North Yorkshire, England here. So that's the reason for the two different call signs on my name there. So I've been trying to get fully licensed with a full license over here in the UK, which has proved a little bit difficult since they don't have the full up reciprocal licensing with the US anymore. But actually COVID and remote invigilation has actually helped that quite a bit. So I have a couple of projects I'm working on. So over here we can see QO100, the first Oscar satellite that's at GEO. So I have a 1 meter dish out on the terrace, and I have just receive only for right now until I get up to that next class of license in the UK. And then trying to get full up transmit and receive and do some neural net experiments with the QO100. I also posted on the net or on the email group, I have some interest in dual frequency and dual band GNSS chips. So experimenting around just a little bit with that. We have a phone in the house that has the dual frequency, and I was able to confirm that I can get L5 and E5A. So going to start playing around with getting those raw measurements out and seeing if we can get any data on the ionosphere TEC counts for that. So yeah, I've been looking around at other chips for that and looking at some U-Blocks chips as well. So So this is my first time on here. I'd be really interested if anybody for the Personal Space Weather Station is looking at the GNSS locking for frequency stability, and then also if we've given any thought to dual frequency so we can get those TEC measurements as well.
Yeah, I think we have good news for you. So the answer to both of those is yes. Do you know John Ackerman, N8UR?
I don't, but I'll note down his name.
Okay, so he has been working on this, and he's designing the RF clock module for the Personal Space Weather Station. And he actually has a presentation at next week's Tapper conference about his work. And he also just wrote a 44-page paper comparing the different GNSS chips that. So his paper is quite a tour de force. If you send him an email, he might send you the preprint before it comes out in the Tapper. But yeah, he's been working very hard on that.
Excellent. Excellent.
And,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then let's see. The other thing, yeah, so we're actually very much tied into the CDAR community as well. So the Personal Space Weather Station funding basically comes from the CDAR community. And then I'm a part of it. Gareth is a part of CDAR and GEM. And who else is here? Zach in Virginia Tech and David Mcgod at Dartmouth. So there's a lot of people who are, active CDAR community members.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You guys probably crossed paths with my my advisor, Scott Palo. I think he's still active in the community as well. So.
Yeah. So that's really cool. We're glad to have you here. And awesome. you should also talk with Bill Lyles, NQ6Z here, because he has a lot of friends over in the UK who do ionospheric work, including Catherine Mitchell.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. I will say one more thing too. I have quite a bit of experience with Python development and then data visualization and things like that. So I'll look for ways through the email link to get involved with that too.
That'd be great. Thank you. All right. So then let's go over to JW8 SBI.
Okay. Hi there. Hi, everybody. Just reading the mail, enjoying things. In the latest issue of QST, speaking of propagation, there was an article of just only a few paragraphs about one and done propagation, especially as it applies to FT8. Excuse me. Where it's they had the situation where you'll hear a station calling CQ, you'll go back to it and it's gone and you'll never hear it again. And to an explanation about how that can be. Nathaniel, I was wondering if you'd seen that, and that might, if there's room at the DCC, that might be worth a presentation. If somebody could whip up a presentation in time, if there's a blank spot in the agenda or in the program about how that propagation is possible of one and done, where you hear somebody calling CQ, you only hear the signal once and that's it. You can respond all you want with all the power you want and all the directional antenna you want. It isn't going to happen. And they're out there, but you're not hearing them at all.
Yeah.
So,
out of curiosity, how do they know that they're still out there after they called CQ?
Basically because some of the stations that I've heard on that event were DX stations that you've heard many times before, where I would have heard, say, New Zealand or Russia, European Russia, Asian Russia, and I've heard those signals many times. And it seems to have happened where I've heard them, gone back to them, nothing, zero.
Yeah.
It's like they vanished.
That's kind of what I'm looking to do.
Second lane from the left, then turn left on Georgia 3.
This more in 6 meters.
Yeah.
Because sporadic E, the QSB can be just take you out in seconds. So just the way the layers form in the upper level winds, I see it all the time on 6 meters.
I was going to say I've been seeing it on 10 and 6 quite a bit lately, and it was particularly prevalent around the Perseid meteor shower.
Yeah, I've
You can
seen
come
it.
to your own conclusions there.
Yeah, I've seen it on 20 meters and 40 meters. So I just thought the general effect might be something that if there's a blank spot in the DCC programming, that this might be an interesting topic to drop in there if somebody could whip something up. As for Maxwell's equations, I haven't dealt with them since my undergrad EE days. And at the end of this time, I'm going to go get some adult fermented grain beverages to dull the pain. So what wasn't one of my favorite subjects. I got through it, but haven't used it, and like, okay, that was one and done for me. Otherwise, changing the subject slightly, I have an ICOM 756 Pro that the internal power supply is failed, and ICOM no longer supports that radio. So if anyone knows of anybody who fixes 756 Pros, please drop me an email, my call sign at ARL.net. With that, 7-3 all. Have a good Labor Day holiday. Back Connect Control.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. You as well. All right. Why don't we go over to Tom, N5EG.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. Got my inputs for DCC done and put in the Google Dropbox. And I think I have lined up the needed test equipment to test the Tangerine HF receiver when we start to get the first prototypes from that. So found some locals, and I think I got it set up to be able to borrow that. Back to the group.
That sounds great, Tom. Good on the DCC uploads and getting that test equipment lined up for testing the Tangerine SDR. All right, Mike, AA8K.
Oh, greetings to everyone on the conference. I may disappear. Comcast and Xfinity is having multiple failures during the days here. I vanished in this morning's meeting just in the middle of David's excellent presentation. Back to you, Nathaniel.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Well, I think Christina is going to be working on putting those. David Kasdan has been recording some very nice presentations about FFT analysis and signal processing and signal theory. And so I think Christina is going to be working on whipping that up into a YouTube playlist for those who are interested. I highly recommend it. And I think the last person we have here is Bill, AB4EJ.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Good afternoon to you and to everyone on the telco. The latest thing that I have accomplished is I've uncovered all the necessary parts and pieces to put together for whisper decoding. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll be adding that to the local host for the Tangerine. At that point, except for the magnetometer stuff, the system will be essentially feature complete and just has to be built out with details, debugging, writing unit tests for things. And so that's what we're working on now. Back to net.
That sounds amazing, Phil. I'm super glad to hear that. Thank you for all of your work on there. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the list. So I think we are open for general discussion.
I got a couple of I got a couple of things I forgot to mention. One was that I did mention that what we're deploying up on Baffin Island may be a USRP, or if we can get dual channel running on the SDR play units, we might try using one of them up there, but we'd really like to have a multi-channel Tangerine SDR ultimately. So, looking forward to the 2-channel and hopefully 4-channel in the future on those. The other thing is that I have been helping out with the magnetometer side of things and was able to finally get my magnetometer working. And I need to get in touch with Dave Witten because apparently he's got a pile of these boards that aren't working, and I might offer to debug them for him because I'm a little less leery of blowing things up than I think he is. So I think I can help out there.
Well,
But
Dave, I think Dave Witten mentioned that he had blown up several odroids.
well, exactly. That was
That
part of
makes
the
me
discussion.
very nervous because they're
Yes.
not that cheap.
No.
You're actually
But
blowing them up. You're blowing $75 each time.
right. Being one who understands the interface, I can easily check it before plugging it in. And I also, what it ended up on mine is it was a hairline solder bridge on the interface chip, the LVDS interface, that I couldn't even see under a microscope. I had to ohm it out to find it. So I know the problems with these fine pitch surface mount chips, but they can be found, they can be repaired. And I guess the other thing is, I guess with the magnetometer that at least some of the testing, they're going for very long period averaging to get the noise level down. And it does respond to that, but I'm not sure that we want 1 minute data. I think we might want a little higher bandwidth than that, but I'm not sure of what we're shooting for on the magnetometer side of things.
Yeah, I think
in the past, I think we've said that 1 minute would be perfectly fast enough. Haven't we, Nathaniel?
I thought it was more 1 second resolution for the magnetometer.
But
Maybe
to get
10
the noise out, I think he's saying.
to get the noise out. Maybe 10 second.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
may need to have multiple products for that.
yeah, because I think if you're looking at ULF waves, you probably want a higher time resolution than a minute. But if you're looking at, like substorm current wedge signatures, maybe minute resolution's fine. So it depends on what you're interested in.
I guess the good news is that the magnetometer does respond to averaging well. So depending upon one's needs, you can choose your filtering.
Yeah, I think we'd prefer to have the 1 second resolution.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I can't remember what we flew on the barrel balloons, but it was fairly high. Yeah, I think it was 1 second. It might have been higher rate.
It seems to be the common cadence these days.
Yep.
Yeah. David Kasdan, would you like to show your recent figures you were saying with the hurricanes and things like that?
Let's see. It will take me a while to get that queued up. It's not on this computer.
I can show mine if you'd like.
That really would be a lot easier if you could. Thanks, John.
Which frequency were we after again?
Lowest. Start with that anyway.
Okay. VNCing into it.
So while he's doing that, what I noticed last week as Hurricane Laura, which N8NFE does not take credit for, was, was blasting away at the southeastern coast. My 2.5 megahertz WWV frequency shift recordings overnight were really looking turbulent. And John recorded almost identical patterns to mine. He lives about 20 kilometers south. So by rights, we should have similar looking patterns, and they really were. He will be able to queue some of his up. I will try to provide an animation of mine for next time. John, any luck?
Yes. In fact, I was working on the animation, and it took 45 minutes to download all of the data file, ping files and source files to the jump drive to get it onto the system I was going to do it, so I couldn't get it quite ready. But I have all of the plots here.
Yeah, actually, a question to the group while he's doing that. I have discovered that our university gives us box.com storage accounts. Does anybody know if accounts like that can be set up for automatic upload of files as a Python program generates them?
There are some APIs on box.com. They have a couple APIs for allowing automated download. I've never tried an automated upload. They may exist. You probably have to go to the site and see what APIs they support.
Yeah, I've been hunting around. The ones that I can find rather specifically don't seem to apply to university accounts. And I thought maybe I was missing something. Anyway,
I just have the free account because I get 10 gig of storage. And the free account I can use, at least the download APIs work.
Okay. Anyway, John.
Okay, this is from September 1st. This is yesterday. There's some interesting gyrations going on in the early hours of UTC there, but what David was referring to, let's see, was it that?
Yeah, that was one. It's really quite hectic looking.
It's really pretty crazy. That was on the 31st.
Yeah, keep going back. Yeah.
30th had some gyrations. 29th was going crazy around 7 a.m. UTC.
Yeah, I think these were the worst of it. That's right.
Yeah.
Going back a couple of days.
Down after this, yeah. Go a couple more days. But yeah, I'd like to get this into an animation. Like I say, I'm so close. I just have to. I haven't gotten a chance to process either Christina's link or Nathaniel's link for the animation stuff yet. I just got this system up and going with being able to put all the data onto it. So, but this is, yeah, these kind of things right in here. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Have you been able to save this into, you know, so we could get the Spectrum Lab plots out of this too?
I haven't been, no.
You haven't been?
No. This is all coming, this is the output files from FLDigi.
You know, one thing that just struck me is like, if we're concerned with the amount of data upload, so I'm very concerned that just by looking at these plots, we're not able to really diagnose what's going on, which I think we all agree on now. But then there's always this discussion of how much data we can save and how much we can't. You know, one approach is it seems fairly reasonable that we see times when the FLDigi plot is basically just flat and like not super interesting. And then, you know, we see times when we look at the FLDigi and there's, you know, a sudden big swing or burst, or we get a lot of variability. And that might be the sort of thing where we could eventually develop like a trigger mode where if we see something interesting, then it saves the high resolution data and sends it back to us. Something to think about.
John,
yes.
On this chart in the afternoon, the signal strength is down at about -80. Does that imply that the Doppler data over that same time interval is usable or not usable?
You're down in the noise floor of the machine, so it's probably more fictitious than anything.
Okay.
This up here, when the signal level's up at -30, is more representative of what's going on. Then you get the Doppler shift here when you have the transition, and then this stuff. There's a lot of ionosphere stuff, because if I dance around these, you'll see that when it's down low like that, I get some very interesting, like that one there seemed pretty well behaved.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'll tell you what, while we're chatting, I'm going to check my 2.5 megahertz from the 31st, see if I have that same feature during the day.
Because on the 28th here, we have a rise right around 2000 UTC, which is kind of odd. It usually stays, and it looks not like that. That one coming up looks like that. That's normal, what I'm used to seeing. Where you have the Doppler shift in the morning here, and you have the Doppler shift in the evening here, or vice versa. 11.
Can you explain why there's so much less Doppler shift in the evening?
Because I think it's a much more gradual fade.
Yeah, it must be.
Don, tell you what, maybe I can show these. Why don't you start with yours on the 26th and go forward, and then I will screen share mine. I think I can do this.
Okay, that was the 26th there. There's the 27th, 28th, 29th. That's got a rather relatively flat afternoon. 30th and 31st.
Okay, why don't you stop there? Except for the 31st, I think the daytime ones are artifact. Mine's going to be clumsier because it's from a connected Raspberry Pi, but let me see what I can do. Okay, have I got screen share authority here? I think so. And I don't have any recording at all during the day. I use my station for other things. So here's the first evening of the hurricane. Let me call up an annotation. There. First evening of the hurricane, this is more hectic than they usually are. I can't, oh, actually I can. It's going the wrong way. Okay, that was the one we just looked at. Here's the day before, a couple days before that. Gives you an idea, they're quite a bit calmer. Let me see if this is going to let me step through them. This is the day before. This has a feature similar to what John's had. John, any comment on that one? Does it look the same to you?
Let me get the 26 back up on my screen here. Come on. 27, 26. Yeah, it almost looks like a carbon copy.
Okay, so that's an interesting verification that we have the same stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can go forward. Okay, here's the next one that, my Pi's not behaving well in the network here. This one, John's looked similar. It was hectic overnight. This is in the middle of the hurricane.
My features on the 28th, well, that was 27. Because say the 27 looked a lot more like that one, but yeah, 27 features look pretty similar.
Here's 28th, which again, by my memory, looks pretty similar to yours.
Yep.
And this was the most bizarre one and really was about the tail end of the hurricane through this area.
Yeah, and mine's looking pretty much the same.
And then I think there was one more interesting one. 30th.
Although I get a much deeper drop because you're going from like minus 20, 25 to minus 52. And I'm going from like minus 25 to minus 75.
I can't shut off the AGC on my receiver.
Oh, okay.
But the Doppler shifts are similar.
And but this is also horizontally polarized off-center fed dipole. I don't know if that makes any difference.
I'm also receiving horizontally polarized. The nature of the antenna shouldn't matter much, but the polarization will.
That was one thing I wanted to throw at Nathaniel. In the system I'm going to be setting up out at my farm, it's easier to set up a horizontal polarization antenna, but I can do a vertical. What is the preferred polarization for these measurements?
I don't know that we have a preferred polarization right now.
Because it's a $100 antenna versus a $600 antenna.
Okay, but let me just interrupt for a moment. And now, this is last night. It's kind of back to what they usually look like overnight. It has some disturbance, but nothing like what the week of the hurricane had. Okay, I'll shut up. Let me stop.
You're fine, David. You're fine.
I think right now, John, I would go for if the $100 antenna performs as well as the $600 antenna, I would go for the $100 antenna.
Okay. Just means I get my skid steer out at the farm and I get to do some tree work. Woo!
if that's easier for you.
Oh, it's more fun.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure until we have a specific thing that we're looking for with a specific polarization. I don't know I don't have guidance.
Yeah, right now my 2.5 megahertz and 5 megahertz are both off the 135-foot off-center fed dipole, the Wyndham
Yeah.
sloper, up 30 feet. And then my 10 megahertz is off my vertical gap Titan,
Okay.
which is a $600 antenna.
Ben Vitfleet might have better guidance. In some ways too, like it's really useful from the citizen science perspective, just to be able to, know that we can do some good science regardless of what antenna people have. Because I think from an appliance operator standpoint, it's fairly easy to just buy one of these things and connect it to whatever antenna you have.
Right.
And then if we can figure out how to get good information regardless of the antenna configuration, which I think Doppler shift will give us. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, if we do come up with a standardized antenna and we figure out, what we want to do exactly with polarization, yes, I'm sure that will give us better science. But there's also the perspective that, okay, if we just want lots of people to set these things up, the less restrictions we put on how they set up the antenna, the easier, less onerous it is for the citizen science person to do this.
Okay. Is there any understanding
again,
propagation as to what the ionosphere does to the polarization? Does it scramble it?
Yeah. So there are definitely a few things that go on. There's something called Faraday rotation, so that when you send a signal up, it will actually cause the polarization to rotate.
Okay.
So there is that as well.
And the X and O.
And what, Bill?
The X and O modes.
Yes, and the X and O modes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and having said that, I want publicly to thank Zach for helping out our electrical engineering senior project group that is investigating X and O mode propagation. So Zach, thanks.
Sure, yeah, no problem. I'm happy to get involved, and I have nothing meaningful to contribute other than to say that's what I'm hoping that the cross dipole I'm working on can help lead us to once we get, combine that with the dual channel Tangerine SDR, and then we can maybe find out later what is the right polarization to maybe say maximize SNR. That could be, linear, elliptical, circular, anything in between, all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
that's where I'm hoping to get to with this.
I see John's comment in the chat. Thanks. And yes, we're trying to do 3 mutually perpendicular axes and record them separately. And that's exactly what we're after. So maybe you want to be kept in the loop for this.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
I'm not sure that we want a resonant antenna per se, because we're trying to be so broadband about things. So there's that to consider, right?
Yeah, and in fact, we're not doing a resonating one, but yes, I understand the point, and it is rather different.
Yeah, none of my horizontal antennas are resonant, but my question to Nathaniel would be, I've got the standard Wyndham sloper for 80 meters, and it's 95 and 35 feet on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Would I want to rewire that to have it symmetrical, so it's like 95 feet, or make it resonant at 2.5 megahertz and keep it symmetrical so that the center point isn't jumping around?
Yeah.
Is that preferred to redo the antenna that way, or do I just use the standard ham antenna? I know it's a tough question, something to think about.
Yeah. I don't know that it's really important right now.
Okay. Because right now I'm just going to put up the standard ham antenna.
Yeah, I think right now, I think right now if you put up a standard ham antenna and you know that you're getting good reception from WWV, and you're able to make the Doppler shift measurements, I think that's really good.
That's good enough.
The thing that I keep saying this, and the thing that I think is really important is I really think it's super important that we start recording the full spectrum of WWV, because like I look at Steve Serwin's figures, and in looking at his figures versus looking at the single line traces, you can diagnose so much more physics by looking at those spectrum lab plots. And so I think that's really where, if we're going to put our effort in anywhere, that's going to be an extremely valuable thing to do. I think that's much more valuable than worrying about the antenna polarization right now.
Okay.
One thing I would offer on that front, Nathaniel, is there's a general concept of like the sort of ring buffer. It kind of goes back to what you were mentioning before about the trigger threshold.
Yes.
Where if you're kind of locally recording as much as you can,
Mm-hmm.
but then something interesting happens, you at least have that historical data there that you can maybe go back, say 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, and get the original data that kind of covers the full event starting process, and then upload all of that in snippet form to minimize, overall bandwidth and overall storage requirements.
Yes, that's
But yeah, I think that's generally a really good idea.
Yeah, I completely agree, Zach. That is, if we don't have enough bandwidth to get the full data across, I think that's the way to go. And that's how satellite missions work too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, from a hardware standpoint, it makes no changes. This is all how the software is implemented. And I'm not just going to say it's just software.
Yeah, it's just software.
For that before.
Right, Bill? Right, Bill? It's just software.
Yeah, well, we used to, for a while, I worked for Packard Electric, which does all of the wiring for General Motors vehicles. And the electrical wiring for the car was always no more than an afterthought. Well, it's just wires. And, well, okay, you want to pass signals and you want fiber optics included into it, and you want to do this and you want to do that, and you also want to minimize weight. So it turned out it was the same thing. You tend to minimize something that you're not that familiar with.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Or the marketer who changes the requirements 6 weeks before product ships.
Well, everything's easy as long as somebody else has to do it. That's the.
Well, that person usually was me.
Yeah.
Packard Electric. I'm a retired automotive engineer. Spent my entire career in that industry. That's a term I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, I worked for them for 12 years. I've got 30 years in the auto industry also.
Oh, cool.
And another 20 years of other coding. So this spring, I celebrated my 50th year as a professional software developer.
Okay.
Started in 1970.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one more thing I wanted to bring up before we go. I know there's been a lot of discussion on the email list about Aiden's code review proposal. I just want to again reiterate that, maybe code review is the wrong word. I think that's a trigger word for some people who've been in environments where their job is on the line, and their code has to go through a particular review procedure before it gets implemented, and people, shoot other people down, and it's just very unpleasant. That's not what we're trying to do here. I think what Aiden's trying to do, I think we're thinking of renaming it maybe Code Workshop. And the idea is that this should be a place where people can go who voluntarily want to show their code and ask for advice, or they want to, or they are, they think they can help other people out. And it's basically like a code sharing to help people, like let's say you are trying to do a certain plot or a certain calculation and you don't know how to do it. You could come to this Zoom meeting or this group and you could say, all right, this is what I'm trying to do, or this is running slowly. Does anyone have suggestions on how to do it? I think this is a really good opportunity for students and even non-students who just want to be able to share ideas to come together and do that. So I think that's more the spirit of what it's supposed to be. This is not supposed to be, we are going to submit everyone's code for the PSWS and it needs to be stamped and approved. That's not it. This is a friendly sharing and an educational experience for people who want to share software.
Sounds like a plan.
So noted.
Great. So yes, so that's that. Yeah, and I hope it helps out because I think, some people would really benefit and enjoy doing that. Okay. I think that brings us almost to the end of this session. I might sign off here. I can leave the chat running for a while for anyone who wants to stay on. I'll turn off the recording, but I'm gonna head out. because I'm going to try to get my presentation put together for my Ham Radio Club meeting tonight on digital modes, and hopefully be able to do a nice demo for the college students. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming today, and this has been very pleasant. So
We'll send out an announcement on that one.
Okay, yeah, I will do that. I think, did you get, so you didn't receive an announcement from our secretary yet?
I don't think I got one for this week's meeting.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure I'll send one to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
What radio club is this, Nathaniel?
this is the University of Scranton, new W3 USR University of Scranton Amateur Radio Club.
What are you going to be talking about?
I'm just going to show, like, you know, how digital modes work, and basically I'm going to show FL Digi, try to explain what that is. I'll try to make some PSK QSOs. So actually, if anyone wants to join in, one of the things I might be looking for are people to respond to my PSK CQs. So that might be a nice thing. We'll probably try either probably start on 20 and then maybe go to 40 meters. This is at 8 p.m. this evening.
Is this going to be on a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, it'll be on Zoom.
Can I get the link, please?
Yeah. Let me just send this. Let's see.
I'm QRT on HF for the moment. Have to send my other ICOM radio to the ICOM doctor, and it should be back to this weekend. So, but I'm interested in what the topic you're going to talk about.
Great. Yeah, so I can send you an invite, and anyone else who would want to can join in.
Yeah, wb@sbi@arl.net.
Great, I got it.
I presume I'm on that list as well.
Who is that?
Me, John, NEWJ.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna blast the whole HamSCI group about this, but so anyone who wants to be a part of it, I will send you an invite. I'm just going through who I see on the screen right now, and I'm just gonna send you guys. As I said, it'll be greatly appreciated anyone who can help make QSOs during tonight's talk.
I can set up for that. What are you equipped for?
Well, I'm going to be using FL Digi, so anything that FL Digi can do, I'm equipped for.
Oh, yes, I understand. But do you mean HF contacts?
Yeah, HF contacts. Yeah.
Right. So what are you set up for?
What do you mean? I've got a G5RV Junior right now. I think I can tune it on to 40, 30, and 20.
Let's try 40 meters.
We'll try 40 meters tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure I have you on the Zoom. Yep, I have you on there as well. Neruda and I have.
I mean, if you want more signals, I can certainly get on the air. Just tell me a time and a frequency.
Yeah, it'll be 8 p.m. I think we're gonna start on 40 meter PSK probably. So that's 7.040, is it?
70.
7070. Okay. Yeah, and I'm gonna try to start. It'll probably be more like 8:15 to 8:30 by the time we get on the air, because I'll probably give a little PowerPoint presentation, explaining what FL Digi is, how we hook up the radio, try to orient people to what's going on before I actually just hop on the air.
Yeah, and let's keep in touch on chat then. We don't need to stay on the standard frequencies. We have access to the band. If anything is crowded, or if we just want a quiet place, we'll move.
Well, that's right. If you sign on to Zoom, we'll be able to communicate that way and also talk with the other students and people like that.
That's fine. And my recommendation, what I've been doing, show off at least one narrowband mode and at least one wideband mode. So PSK31 is a nice narrowband mode. Let's try MFSK 16 or 32, for example, as a wide one. so we can show off an orthogonal frequency shift keying mode.
Yeah, I like that. And I think one thing that I found that's very nice is, did I lose it? The FL Digi, they have a, if you go to their website, they have the sights and sounds of digital modes, which is really nice. I was planning on showing this tonight. And so then they have samples of what everything looks like. So here's your PSK31, QPSK31, and you can, you can play that, which is really neat. And yeah, so they have all the different, there's what Olivia looks like, there's what Riddy looks like. So yeah, it looks like Dave has a really nice job. He's done a really nice job on his website of showing these different things.
If you can meet earlier, the shortwave radiogram at 7:30 Thursday evenings is a good thing to show off. WRMI Florida has the first edition of it each weekend on, I think, 9625 megahertz. And
yeah,
that works very well, goes through a couple of different mode and has some fact pictures.
Yeah.
I've had good luck using radio teletype. It's so slow that people can hear the shifts. And it's also interesting to show off FL Digi with CW and show how bad an automated code Morse is.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe if you guys can hop on tonight, we can just try some of these different digital mode QSOs with FL Digi. And I'm certainly set up here for 40, 30, 20 and the other bands. And that'll be really nice just to show some of those things off.
I think the Case Club has open station at 7, so I'll make sure that I can flip away from that, or maybe I'll suggest to folks that they join up.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, if Case can join, yeah, please do.
Okay.
I won't be able to sign on before 8 because of Anthony's bedtime schedule and things like that, but I think this will be really good. And then certainly in the future, if we can forward it to the Scranton students if they want to do something sooner. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. So thank you so much, everyone. It has been a pleasure.
All right, going QRT.
73.
73. Stay healthy.
Gotta go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
7:30,
7:30,
everybody.
everybody.